The massive crystalline ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with barely a sound, its iridescent hull reflecting the crisp winter moonlight. It was the coldest December in 50 years, something the Talon invaders had carefully planned. Their advanced scouts had analyzed human physiology and determined that extreme cold would cripple human resistance. Captain Kim Jae-woo stood atop the observation post in the Taebaek Mountains, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. He adjusted his thermal binoculars, not trusting what he was seeing. The object hovering above the valley wasn't a drone or experimental aircraft. It was something entirely different. "Headquarters, this is Outpost 7, he spoke into his radio. "I'm tracking an unidentified object approximately 300 meters in diameter. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." Only static answered him. The radio had been working perfectly just minutes ago. Across the globe, similar scenes unfolded. Communication systems failed as crystalline structures emerged from the clouds above major cities and remote locations alike. The pattern became clear. The Talons were establishing bases primarily in the coldest regions: Antarctica, Siberia, northern Canada, and mountainous areas where temperatures plummeted below freezing. In Seoul, Defense Minister Yoon called an emergency meeting. Military leaders from around the world connected via the few remaining secure channels. "They've knocked out 60% of our global communications," reported General Choi, his face grim on the secure video feed. "Satellite systems are compromised. Power grids in 23 countries have experienced failures." Professor Lee Tae-ho, South Korea's leading xenobiologist, analyzed the limited footage they had of the visitors. "Their physiology appears crystalline in nature," she explained, pointing to enhanced images. "They seem to thrive in cold environments. This is why they've chosen winter for first contact." "Is this first contact?" asked Minister Yoon. "Or an invasion?" His question was answered when the Talon commander, who called himself Do, broadcast his message to every working screen on Earth. His form was humanoid, but composed of translucent crystals that captured and refracted light. His voice resonated with an unnatural harmony. "People of Earth, your planet is now under the protection of the Talon Dominion. Your primitive technologies and fragile biological forms require our guidance. Resistance is unnecessary and inadvisable. In this cold season, when your kind is at its weakest, accept our dominion and you will survive." Captain Kim watched the broadcast from his outpost. The temperature had dropped another 5 degrees and his equipment was beginning to fail. Anyone know? The valley below, smaller crystal ships detached from the mothership, establishing what appeared to be a base of operations. "Sir?" his lieutenant whispered, pointing to their radar screen. The last functioning piece of equipment showed similar ships appearing all over the Korean peninsula. Kim made a decision. "We need to get back to headquarters. If they've targeted our communications, they'll go after military installations next." They abandoned the outpost, taking only essential gear and weapons. As they descended through the snow-covered forest, an eerie blue light illuminated the trees ahead. Kim signaled his team to take cover. 3 Talon scouts moved through the forest, their crystalline bodies glowing faintly. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with limbs that seemed too thin to support their weight. They moved with unexpected grace, leaving no footprints in the deep snow. "They're not wearing any protection against the cold," whispered the lieutenant. "They must love these temperatures." Kim nodded, understanding dawning. "That's why they came now. They think we're weakened by winter." One of the Talons stopped, turning its faceted head toward their hiding spot. Kim held his breath. The alien raised what appeared to be a weapon. Before it could fire, a sudden gust of wind brought a shower of snow down from the trees. The Talons paused, seemingly confused by the natural phenomenon. Kim seized the moment, signaling his team to retreat, deeper into the forest. Back at the Talon command ship, Commander Do reviewed the initial reports with satisfaction. Human military responses were sluggish, hampered by the cold and their failing technology. Conquest would be swift, just as he had promised the Dominion's leaders. "The humans retreat from the cold," he told his lieutenants. "Their bodies are inefficient, requiring layers of artificial protection. Unlike us, they cannot draw energy from low temperatures. Some resistance has been reported, noted his second-in-command. Insignificant, Doe dismissed. Their weapons are primitive, their bodies fragile. And now we have taken their communication. Soon we will control their energy sources. Without warmth, they will surrender within days. Little did Commander Doe know that even as he spoke, Captain Kim's team was making contact with other surviving military units. The first human resistance was forming, not despite the winter conditions, but because of them. The Talons had made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. They had seen the cold as humanity's weakness, never suspecting it could become their strength. As night fell across the frozen landscape, Captain Kim reached a hidden military bunker where other survivors had gathered. Communications were limited, but reports trickled in from around the world. The invaders had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to fight, to survive against impossible odds. They think we're helpless in the cold, Kim told the assembled soldiers. Let's show them how wrong they are. Snow crunched beneath Major Park Sunmi's boots as she led her team through the blinding white landscape. 2 weeks had passed since the Talons arrived, and humanity had learned much about their enemy. The temperature had plummeted to -30 degrees, but that didn't slow her team of winter warfare specialists. Movement ahead, whispered Lieutenant Han, her second-in-command. Through specialized goggles, they watched 3 Talon scouts, gliding across a frozen lake, their crystalline bodies catching the moonlight. Park signaled her team to hold position. These multinational soldiers, South Korean, Russian, Canadian, and Norwegian specialists, had been training in extreme conditions for years. Now that training was Earth's best hope. Remember, Park said quietly, they track by heat signatures. Use the snow to your advantage. The team split into 3 groups, each carrying specially modified weapons. Regular bullets had proven nearly useless against the crystalline aliens, merely chipping their outer layers. But human ingenuity had found solutions quickly. Across the globe, the Talons had established their strongholds in the coldest regions, assuming humans would be too weak to challenge them there. Commander Doe's strategy had been simple: cut power to major cities during winter, forcing humans to choose between freezing or surrendering. He hadn't expected humans to fight back in the very conditions he thought would cripple them. Park watched through binoculars as a Talon patrol approached a seemingly abandoned outpost. Inside, Captain Kim's team waited. The aliens entered, confident in their superiority. Now, Park said into her radio. From multiple positions, her team activated jammers that disrupted the aliens' communication. Inside the outpost, Captain Kim's team sprung their trap, using the new weapons developed by Professor Lee. Devices that generated rapid heat pulses followed by extreme cold. The sound of crystalline structures cracking echoed across the valley. Team 3, move in, Park ordered. 200 miles away, Commander Doe received reports of the ambush. His faceted features showed no emotion, but his voice carried a new tone: frustration. How are they functioning in these temperatures? He demanded. Our analysis indicated human performance decreases by 60% in extreme cold. His lieutenant displayed footage from the ambush. They've adapted their tactics, Commander. They're using the snowstorms to mask their approach. Our thermal sensors can't distinguish them when they use these coverings. The footage showed humans wrapped in white thermal suits that mask their heat signatures, moving like ghosts through blizzard conditions. Impossible, Doe said. These are the same creatures that build heating into every structure, that flee to warmer regions during cold seasons, that die when exposed to these temperatures. Evidently, his lieutenant replied carefully, our assessment was incomplete. In the makeshift human headquarters established in an underground facility near Pyeongchang, military leaders from around the world gathered to share information. The room was cold. They conserved power wherever possible, but no one complained. General, Choi pointed to a map showing Talon positions. They've established 7 major bases, all in regions where temperatures remain below freezing. They're making the same mistake, Park said, having just returned from her mission. They think, the cold is our weakness, so they hide where it's coldest. But humans have survived in these conditions for thousands of years. Professor Lee entered, carrying new equipment. We've confirmed their vulnerability. The Talons can withstand steady cold, but rapid temperature changes shatter their crystalline structure. She demonstrated the new weapons, compact devices, that generated microwave pulses, heating the aliens' outer layers before a secondary system created flash freezing. The combination proved devastating to their molecular structure. We've also found they can't track us during heavy snowfall, Captain Kim added. Their sensors get confused by the millions of tiny ice crystals. General Choi nodded. Then we attack during blizzards. Across the northern hemisphere, resistance cells formed around cold weather specialists. Russian Arctic brigades led strikes against Talon bases in Siberia. Canadian Rangers disrupted alien supply lines across the Northwest Territories. Norwegian Special Forces reclaimed crucial infrastructure. After losing another forward unit, Commander Do summoned his war council. This resistance is unexpected, he admitted. Their adaptation to cold is remarkable. Should we request reinforcements from the Dominion? Asked his lieutenant. Do-H's crystalline form vibrated with anger. No, the Dominion expects success. Failure means replacement. His features hardened. Increase power to the atmospheric processors. Lower Earth's temperature further. There must be a breaking point. Little did he know that human scientists had already detected the Talon technology affecting Earth's atmosphere. Professor Lee worked with international teams to develop countermeasures, while the military prepared for larger offensives. In a Mountain Valley, Major Park watched her team train new recruits. They practiced moving in whiteout conditions, using the environment as both weapon and shield. What had begun as desperate resistance was becoming an organized force. The Talons thought winter would be our downfall, she told the soldiers. Instead, it's become our greatest ally. Later that night, reconnaissance teams reported Talon forces withdrawing from exposed positions, consolidating around their main bases. It was the first sign that the aliens were on the defensive. Captain Kim studied the intelligence reports. They're adapting too, he warned. We need to strike before they develop countermeasures. General Choi agreed. Prepare all units. Operation Frostbite begins in 48 hours. As blizzard warnings blanketed the northern hemisphere, human forces made final preparations. The Talons had arrived expecting an easy conquest of a species they considered weak and vulnerable to cold. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that had millennia of experience surviving and fighting in winter conditions. Commander Do stared at the approaching storm front on his monitors, unaware that hidden within the swirling snow and howling wind was humanity's answer to his invasion. The winter offensive was about to become a winter nightmare for the overconfident aliens. Professor Lee Tae-ho hadn't slept in 3 days. Her laboratory, once a pristine research facility, now resembled a battlefield command center. Captured Talon technology covered every surface, surrounded by the tools of human ingenuity. Jury-rigged equipment, handwritten calculations, and empty coffee cups. It's working, she whispered, watching the crystalline fragment shatter inside. The test chamber. The fragment had once been part of a Talon scout recovered after an ambush. Now it provided the key to humanity's survival. Colonel Kang entered the lab, his winter combat gear still dusted with snow. Please tell me you have good news, Professor. Lee gestured to the test chamber. The thermal shock weapon is ready for mass production. A 5-second exposure causes complete structural failure in their crystalline matrix. How soon can we equip our forces? The prototype designs have already been sent to manufacturing centers. Basic versions can be produced using modified microwave technology. Every resistance cell will have them within days. Outside, the perpetual winter deepened. The Talons had activated atmosphere processors that dropped global temperatures even further, expecting humans to surrender rather than face the bitter cold. Instead, humanity adapted, moving underground, repurposing factories, and forming stronger resistance networks. In the field headquarters, Captain Kim's reconnaissance team delivered their report to General Choi and Major Park. They'd just returned from a daring mission behind enemy lines. We intercepted their communications, Kim said, placing a modified tablet on the table. Our cryptography team broke their encoding algorithm. The officers gathered around as the alien language translated into text. They're not getting reinforcements, Major Park realized reading the messages. The Talon Dominion has refused Commander Doe's request for additional forces. General Choi's weathered face showed the first smile in weeks. They expected a quick victory. Now they're committed to this failure. The intelligence revealed something else crucial. The Talons were running low on certain resources needed to maintain their technology. Without supply ships, they would eventually be forced to withdraw. We don't need to defeat their entire force, Kim said. We just need to make Earth too costly to hold. That night, Operation Frostbite launched across the globe. Human forces, now equipped with thermal shock weapons, struck Talon outposts simultaneously. The Resistance used the extreme weather as cover, approaching through blizzards that blinded the aliens' sensors. Major Park led her team toward a Talon communications array in the mountains. The wind howled around them, temperatures dropping to 40 below zero. Any exposed skin would freeze in minutes, but their specialized gear, the product of decades of cold weather warfare research, kept them functional. Their patrol is passing, her scout reported. Exactly on schedule. The Talons, for all their advanced technology, were surprisingly predictable in their patterns. Their crystalline minds thought linearly, lacking human adaptability. Move in. Remember, hit and vanish. Don't let them identify our numbers. The strike team approached the communications array, a towering crystal structure that pulsed with blue energy. They planted the new thermal devices at key structural points, then retreated to safe positions. When detonated, the weapons created a devastating effect. Sections of the tower heated rapidly, then flash-cooled, creating unbearable stress on the crystalline material. With a sound like breaking glass magnified 100-fold, the structure collapsed. Similar scenes played out worldwide. In Siberia, Russian special forces destroyed a Talon energy collection facility. In northern Canada, Resistance fighters disabled transport ships. In Scandinavia, strategic power nodes were eliminated. Red crystalline fragments littered the pristine, snow Talon blood if their alien biology had such a concept, hence the operation's nickname among the troops. Blood on snow. Commander Doe received the reports with increasing agitation. His crystalline form vibrated with frequencies that his subordinates recognized as extreme distress. How have they developed weapons targeting our specific molecular structure? He demanded. This level of adaptation should be impossible in such primitive beings. His lieutenant displayed surveillance footage. They're remarkably resourceful. They've even turned our own technology against us. The footage showed humans using salvaged Talon energy cores to power their bases and weapons. What the aliens had considered primitive beings were proving to be ingenious opponents. We underestimated them, the lieutenant said quietly. Doe's form hardened. No, they are still inferior. Biological entities dependent on narrow temperature ranges. We simply need to push beyond their capacity to adapt. He turned to his chief scientist. Accelerate the climate modification. Drop temperatures further. Force these humans to expend all resources on mere survival. At the Resistance headquarters, Professor Lee studied the data from atmospheric monitoring stations. They're intensifying the cooling effect, she reported. Global temperatures could drop another 15 degrees within days. General Choi frowned. Can we survive that? Our shelters can withstand it, but food production will become nearly impossible. They're trying to starve us out. Captain Kim studied the maps showing Talon positions. Their forces are withdrawing to their primary strongholds. They're consolidating. Major, Park pointed to the largest concentration in Antarctica. That's where their command structure is, and likely the control center for the climate modification. Colonel Kang entered with new intelligence. We've decoded more of their communications. Commander Doe is facing criticism from the Dominion for his failure to secure Earth quickly. He's becoming desperate. General Choi nodded grimly. Desperation makes him dangerous. But also vulnerable, Park added. He'll take risks, make mistakes. The general turned to Professor Lee. How soon can your team disable their climate technology? We need access to their primary control systems. Our best chance is to infiltrate their Antarctic base. A frontal assault would be suicide, Captain, Kim said. Not an assault, Major Park interjected. A small infiltration team using their own weather against them. As plans formed for the most daring mission yet, Professor Lee returned to her laboratory. The captured Talon technology had revealed another critical weakness: their communication. Systems were vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. She worked through the night, developing devices that could disrupt their coordination. By morning, she had created what the soldiers immediately dubbed crystal crackers, compact EMP devices tuned specifically to Talon technology. As the first units were distributed to strike teams, Major Park gathered her elite soldiers. Talons came here believing winter would break us, she told them. They never understood that humans don't just survive winter, we master it. Now we take the fight to their doorstep. The snow continued to fall outside, covering the landscape in pristine white, occasionally broken by patches of crystalline red, a silent testament to the ongoing struggle. The Talons had brought winter as a weapon against humanity. They never expected humans to wield it as a sword. The first subtle signs of spring would normally have appeared by now: a slight warming of the air, the occasional drip of melting ice. But the Talons' atmospheric processors kept Earth locked in an artificial winter. Still, something else was thawing: humanity's fear. 3 months into the invasion, people had adapted in ways the crystalline invaders never anticipated. Underground networks connected cities. Salvaged alien technology powered human strongholds. Military forces had mastered fighting in extreme conditions. Major Park stood on the observation deck of the submarine HFY, watching the wall of ice that surrounded Antarctica through the periscope. Somewhere beyond that frozen barrier lay the Talons' main base and their climate control center. We're approaching the designated position, Captain Wu said, the submarine commander's voice steady despite the danger. Sonar shows the ice is thinnest here, just as your intel suggested. Park nodded. Her team of 12 Special Forces soldiers checked their equipment one final time. Their suits incorporated both human and Talon technology, the best of both worlds designed by Professor Lee's team. Remember, Park told them, the Talons expect us to be hindered by cold. That's our advantage. Half a world away, in what had once been a mountain resort in Pyeongchang, General Choi stood before representatives from resistance forces worldwide. The room was cold, but no one complained. They had grown accustomed to it. Operation Thaw begins now, he announced. Major Park's team will infiltrate the Antarctic base while coordinated strikes hit their remaining strongholds globally. Captain, Kim will lead the assault on their mountain fortress here in Korea. Screens showed forces mobilizing across the planet. The human counteroffensive that the Talons had dismissed as impossible was now reality. In his command center beneath the Antarctic ice, Commander Do received disturbing reports. His forces were losing ground on multiple fronts. Humans had adapted faster than any species the Dominion had ever encountered. Our thermal advantage is diminishing, his science officer reported. They've developed insulation technology that negates the effects of our atmospheric cooling. And their weapons? Do demanded. Increasingly effective. They've reverse-engineered elements of our crystalline technology. Do's form vibrated with frustration. The Dominion would not tolerate failure. If he lost Earth, his consciousness would be fragmented as punishment. Prepare the resonance cascade, he ordered. His lieutenant's crystalline features clouded. Commander, the cascade is untested on planets with large water bodies. The models suggest, I'm not interested in models. Execute the order. The resonance cascade was the Talon's final option, a weapon that would trigger a chain reaction in Earth's atmosphere, creating a true ice age that would last centuries. Even the most adapted humans couldn't survive that. Beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, the HFY surfaced in a concealed cavern. Major Park led her team onto the ice, their specialized suits making them nearly invisible to Talon sensors. Base. Perimeter is 2 kilometers north, her lieutenant whispered, checking the scanner Professor Lee had developed. Heavy security. Expected, Park replied. We'll use approach pattern Delta. They moved through ice tunnels and crevasses, avoiding open areas. The extreme cold that should have killed humans served instead as their ally, creating sensor interference that confounded Talon detection systems. At the Korean mountain base, Captain Kim led his forces through a blizzard toward the Talon fortress. The aliens had chosen mountains for their bases, believing the elevation and cold would deter human attacks. They hadn't counted on humans who had trained in these same mountains for generations. They're activating something. His communications. Officer reported, monitoring the intercepted Talon transmissions. Energy readings are spiking. Kim relayed this to headquarters, where Professor Lee analyzed the data. They're preparing a large-scale weapon, she reported to General Choi. From the energy signature, it could affect Earth's entire climate system. How long do we have? Hours, maybe less. They need to align their satellites first. General Choi contacted all strike teams. Time is critical. Whatever they're planning must be stopped. Lieutenant Han Ji-min sat in the cockpit of the experimental aircraft nicknamed Phoenix. Built with reverse-engineered Talon technology, it was faster than anything humans had flown before. Only 3 existed. You're cleared for launch, the control officer told her. Satellite targeting data is uploaded. Han nodded, her hands steady on the controls despite the knowledge that no test flight had exceeded 30 minutes. The Phoenix could reach the upper atmosphere where the Talon's climate satellites orbited. Her mission: destroy as many as possible. Phoenix launching, she reported as the engines ignited. The aircraft shot into the stormy sky, climbing faster than should have been possible. Han felt the G-forces even through the inertial dampeners Professor Lee's team had adapted from alien technology. In Antarctica, Major Park's team reached the outer perimeter of the Talon base. The massive structure rose from the ice like a crystal mountain pulsing with blue energy. Security is lighter than expected, her lieutenant noted. They've redirected forces to defend against the main assaults, Park replied. They don't expect a small team here. Using devices that temporarily disrupted the Talon sensors, they slipped inside through a maintenance access point. The interior was beautiful but alien, geometric patterns of crystal that seemed to grow from the ice itself. Life signs ahead, the lieutenant whispered. 3 Talons. Park activated her thermal shock weapon. Remember, hit and move. Don't let them surround you. The battle was brief, but violent. The sound of shattering crystal echoed through the corridors as the team advanced deeper into the base. In the command center, Commander Do received the alert. Humans? Here? His crystalline form pulsed with angry light. Impossible. They've breached level 3, his security chief reported. Small team, heavily armed. Seal the resonance chamber. The cascade. Preparations must continue. Above the atmosphere, Lieutenant Han's Phoenix reached its target altitude. The Talon satellites formed a network that controlled Earth's climate modification system. Target acquired, she reported, locking weapons on the nearest satellite. Firing. The Phoenix's weapons, hybrid technology combining human missiles with Talon energy focusing, struck with devastating precision. The first satellite shattered into fragments. 1 down, Han reported. Moving to secondary target. On her sensor display, she could see other Phoenix craft launched from different continents, joining the assault on the satellite network. In the Bay Mountain Fortress, Captain Kim's forces breached the outer defenses. The Talons fought desperately, but their tactics were predictable. They hadn't adapted to human guerrilla warfare. They're falling back to the central chamber, Kim reported. Something big is happening there. Inside the Antarctic base, Major Park's team fought their way to the central control room. The security measures increased with every level they descended, but Professor Lee's intelligence had prepared them well. Commander, the Talon lieutenant reported to Do, the resonance cascade is at 70%, but our satellite network is under attack. Do's crystalline form darkened with fury. Continue the sequence. Even with reduced satellites, we can still trigger an ice age. These humans may have adapted to winter, but they cannot survive what comes next. As alarms blared throughout the base, Major Park checked her team. 3 wounded, but all still operational. They had reached the final barrier, a massive crystalline door protecting the command center. "Charges set," her explosives expert reported. Park nodded. "Breach on my mark. 3, 2, 1. The door shattered inward as humanity brought the fight directly to the Talon commander. The artificial winter was about to face an unexpected thaw. The crystalline door exploded inward, sending fragments across the Talon command center. Through the smoke and debris, Major Park led her team into the heart of the alien stronghold. The chamber was vast, its walls pulsing with blue energy that flowed like veins through the ice. Commander Do stood at the center, his crystalline form larger and more elaborate than the other Talons. Around him, alien officers worked frantically, at control interfaces that resembled growing ice formations. Resonance cascade at 82%, one reported, their voice a chiming sound that barely resembled speech. Park raised her weapon. "Shut it down," she ordered. "Now." Do turned, his faceted features catching the light. "Humans. Here. Impossible." "You keep using that word," Park said. "Maybe time to reconsider what's possible." The Talon commander gestured, and energy barriers sprang up between his position and the human strike team. "You are too late," he announced. "The cascade will trigger in minutes. Your planet's temperature will drop beyond even your impressive adaptability. This world will freeze for centuries." "We're not just here to stop the cascade," Park replied. "We're here to end your invasion." Above the Earth's atmosphere, Lieutenant Han's Phoenix destroyed another satellite, making it her third. The Talon defense systems had adapted, making each target progressively harder to hit. "Phoenix 2 is down," came the report over her comm system. "Phoenix 3 reporting engine failures." Han gritted her teeth. "This is Phoenix 1. I'm still operational. 4 targets remaining in my sector." Her craft shuddered as defensive fire from the satellites grazed her wing. Warning lights flashed across her console. The experimental engines were overheating, pushed beyond their intended limits. "Just a little longer," she whispered to the machine. In the Korean mountain fortress, Captain Kim's forces had secured the control room. The Talons there fought with surprising desperation, a trait Kim hadn't observed in them before. "They know. They're losing," his lieutenant said, securing the last prisoner. Kim accessed the alien communication system using the interface Professor Lee had designed. "Major Park, this is Captain Kim. We've secured the mountain base." Through static and interference, Park's voice responded. "We've reached the command center, but the cascade weapon is still activating. We need to shut it down from here." "Understood. Professor Lee is sending shutdown protocols now." At the main resistance headquarters, Professor Lee worked feverishly with her team, analyzing the Talon systems they'd accessed. "The cascade can be reversed," she told General Choi. "But we need direct access to their main control crystal." She transmitted the information to Park's team. "Major, you need to locate the resonance control. It should be a larger crystal formation, likely protected." In the Antarctic Command Center, Park's team fought through waves of Talon defenders. Unlike previous encounters, these aliens didn't shatter easily. They wore protective fields that resisted the thermal shock weapons. "They've adapted," her lieutenant warned. "So will we," Park replied, adjusting her weapon to a new frequency. The modified setting broke through the protective fields. More crystalline fragments scattered across the floor, more blood on the snow. Commander Do retreated to a raised platform where a massive crystal pulsed with swirling energy. 89%, he announced. "You cannot stop it now." Park's team took up positions around the chamber while she advanced toward Do. "Your reinforcements aren't coming. Your satellites are being destroyed. Your forces around the world are in retreat. Surrender." "The Dominion does not surrender," Do replied. "Especially not to primitive biological entities." In orbit, Lieutenant Han lined up her final shot. Her craft's systems were failing, temperature warnings flashing across every display. "Target locked," she reported. "Firing." The last satellite in her sector exploded in a shower of crystalline fragments that glittered against the blackness of space. Han allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before reality set in. Her engines were dead, and the Phoenix was beginning to fall back toward Earth. "Mission accomplished," she reported calmly. "Phoenix 1 is returning rapidly." In the Antarctic base, the effect was immediate. The control interfaces flickered as connections to the satellite network failed. "Cascade at 93%, a Talon officer reported. "Satellite coverage insufficient for global effect." Doe's form darkened with rage. "Redirect all power. Focus the effect on their population centers." Major Park saw her opportunity. While Doe was distracted, she signaled her team to target the support structures around the main crystal. Their coordinated fire caused the platform to shift, throwing the Talon commander off balance. Park charged forward, leaping onto the platform. Her thermal shock weapon pressed against Doe's crystalline chest. "It's over," she said. "You think destroying me ends this?" Doe's voice resonated with harmonic tones of defiance. "I am but an extension of the Dominion. Others will come. Then we'll be ready for them too." With calm precision, she activated the weapon. The effect wasn't immediate. Doe's more complex crystalline structure resisted longer than his subordinates. Cracks appeared, spreading slowly across his form like ice breaking on a spring lake. "Impossible," he whispered one final time. Then, with a sound like a glacier calving, the Talon commander shattered into countless glittering fragments. Park turned to the main crystal. Following Professor Lee's instructions, she placed disruption devices at key points. The pulsing energy faltered, then reversed. Cascade failing. The remaining Talon officers reported, their tones conveying something close to panic. Command. Structure compromised. Around the world, similar scenes played out as human forces overcame the remaining Talon strongholds. Without their commander, and with their weapon neutralized, the aliens began to surrender. Lieutenant Han ejected from the falling Phoenix, her parachute deploying over the Pacific Ocean. Rescue teams were already tracking her position. "Not the landing I hoped for," she said to herself, watching her experimental craft break apart in the atmosphere. But worth it. 6 months later, General Choi stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Through the windows, spring sunshine warmed the Earth for the first time since the invasion began. The Talon's atmospheric processors had been repurposed, helping to repair the damage to Earth's climate. "Today, we announce the completion of humanity's first interstellar vessel," he declared. "Built with recovered technology, the ship Snow Phoenix will carry our message to the stars." In the audience, Major Park sat beside Captain Kim and Professor Lee. They had become the public faces of Earth's successful resistance, though thousands had contributed to the victory. "The Talon Dominion believed us weak because we needed warmth to survive," Choi continued. "They saw our adaptation to cold as a failing rather than understanding the resilience it represented. They measured strength by resistance to temperature alone, missing the true power of humanity. Our ability to adapt, to cooperate, to overcome challenges through ingenuity and determination. The recovered Talon database had revealed a vast, interstellar empire, one that had conquered dozens of worlds using similar tactics, exploiting environmental weaknesses, overwhelming resistance with superior technology. "Earth will not seek revenge," Choi said, "but neither will we remain defenseless. The Snow Phoenix carries a warning to the Dominion and any other species watching our world. Humanity is now a spacefaring civilization. We come in peace, but we will never again be underestimated." In a secure facility beneath the rebuilt Pyeongchang Research Center, the last captured Talons were studied and questioned. They revealed that the Dominion had never before failed in a conquest. Earth's successful resistance was unprecedented. When asked why they had chosen winter for their invasion, their answer was simple. Their analysis of human media had shown countless stories of winter bringing hardship and death. They had calculated that humans feared the cold more than any other environmental condition. They had never understood that what humans fear, humans ultimately master. As the Snow Phoenix prepared for its maiden voyage, Major Park stood on the observation deck, looking at the starfield displayed on the massive screens. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was receiving word of their failure on Earth. She wondered if they would learn from their mistake. Either way, Humanity would be ready. The stars that had once seemed so distant were now within reach, and the species that had mastered Earth's harshest winters was preparing to face whatever challenges awaited in the depths of space. The aliens had underestimated humanity. They had paid the price, and now the galaxy would know. Never judge a species by its need for warmth when that same need has forged an unbreakable will to survive.